real estate, mindset, social media strategies, and how to create the life you want. I'm a mom of four, including twins, and a multi six-figure business owner who loves to teach others how to leverage the power of social media to build and scale their own business. Let's go. I've been getting so much positive feedback about this podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are enjoying what you are hearing and listening to, it would honestly mean the world to me if you would give this a quick like and subscribe so that more people can hear this podcast as well. So today, this podcast today, I have gotten, I can't even tell you how many DMs in the last month. And I have gotten a couple of text messages from you, from people who are listening, and they have asked me to talk more specifically about this topic. And the topic today is, how do you deal with negative comments? How do you deal with kind of like quote unquote the haters on social media? And what do you do? Do you engage with them? Do you not engage with them? What do you do when you receive negative comments on social media? This is a question I remember in the very beginning when I started my first Instagram account for business. And I was very new into it. I didn't know what I didn't know. And there's a big learning curve. And I really think about any time you put yourself out there, anytime you put yourself out there, whether you're a public figure or not, you're always going to have to deal with other people's opinions. And it's part of it, whether you let it stop you from doing the work or whether you don't. Sometimes those opinions, they might be valid, other times they won't. But honestly, before you let their opinion, really get to you, regardless, if you feel like you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, if you feel like you are providing value, if you don't ever let somebody else's opinion stop you from doing the work or really prevent you from doing what you want to do and eat away at you and let you be sad. I know the other day I was picking one of my kids up from gymnastics. She gets in the car and she's crying, and I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And she's like, "So and so was really mean to me, and they were making fun of me because I couldn't do my, I don't know, some trick, some back, it wasn't a back walk, maybe it was a backflip. I don't know. Whatever it was, it sounded complicated anyway." And I was like, "Well, you are amazing at what you do, and who cares about what so and so says?" And she's like, "Well, I do." And it made me really sad. And I said, "You know what, honey? There are going to be people in your life, no matter what stage of the game you are at, there are always going to be people in your life that are going to be critical. There are always going to be people who are going to be cheering you on. Whether you let the voices of the critics be louder than the people who are your cheerleaders, you get to decide. And that's the best thing. You get to decide. You get to decide how you are going to, what you're going to listen to, what you're going to focus your time and your energy on. And that's kind of that. So let's talk about some things of how you can handle negative comments on social media and some of the strategies that I use and some of the things I do. So number one, realize that the negative comments that people are leaving, they, like 99.9% of the time, they don't know you. They don't know you. They see your picture on a little video. They are, they see a comment you wrote. They see a post that you made. They see a YouTube video that you posted. But 9 times out of 10, whoever is leaving the mean comments on your content, most likely they have no idea who you are. They don't know the person you are. They don't know. They get to see little tiny snapshots of whatever it is that you post about your life, right? My guess is you're not posting everything about your life. You are giving little snippets of whatever it is that you're posting. So, number one, realize that they don't know they don't know who you are. Number two, this was a really important one. I attended a conference where Gary Vee, if you don't know who Gary Vee is, Google him. He has put himself out on social media and is incredible. I really, really love and admire his work. He has done such an awesome job of, all things social media. At this conference, Gary Vee, as I'm watching him speak, and this exact question got brought up of what do you do with the negative comments? What do you do when you put yourself out on social media and people are going to say mean things? He said, empathize with them. And I was like, what? Empathize with them? He's like, do you know how sad someone must be if they are taking the time to leave you a negative comment? And I sat in my chair and he repeated it again. And he basically said, like, do you have any idea how sad that person must be sitting on the other end, either on their phone, on the computer, wherever they are? How sad must that person be to take time out of their busy, maybe they're not busy, but to take time out of their lives to leave a mean comment? And I just sat there and I thought, wow, he's so right. He is so right. And so when he said empathize with them, he said, one of the things you can feel compassion for them. When you think about it, they must be really hurting. And he said he's turned it around where he's thought, like, wow, I wonder what's going on in their lives. I wonder, again, empathy. They must be really hurting. They must be really sad. They must be struggling. Oh, they must be hurting. Like there's something going on for them to take time to leave a hurtful, mean comment. And I thought about that and I really just thought, you know what? That's so true. So, of course, when my daughter gets in the car and she's telling me about her, somebody making fun of her at gymnastics and this and that, and it was just like, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry that happened to you or whatever. That girl really must be hurting, huh? And she kind of looked at me like, what? And I said, yeah, for her to be so critical and for her to make fun of you for not being able to, to get that, she must be hurting. She must be upset with something or she must be, having a bad day or whatever. My daughter looked at me, she's like, actually, I think you're right. And I was like, okay, yeah, thank you, Gary V. Thank you, Gary V. So empathizing with somebody. Back to the first one, realizing that these people do not know you that are leaving the comments typically. The next one, what else? Be confident and comfortable with you. Ooh, I like that one. Okay, so what does that mean? Be confident and comfortable with you. So when you are posting things on social media, I for sure am guilty. I know this. When I started posting things on social media, the first time I actually put my face out on social media, I think I laid down on my bed. I don't even know if I had a panic attack. I just know I was sweating. My heart was racing so fast. I thought, oh my gosh, what did I just do? This feels so uncomfortable, right? And sometimes when you're doing new things, it's going to feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's okay to feel uncomfortable, but also the more you start doing it, you're going to start feeling comfortable. And this is what's going to happen is when you start putting yourself out on social media, it might feel comfortable at first, but and when you start receiving either whether it's negative or positive feedback. I don't know about you, but pretty much everybody, we want to hear the positive. Like I don't know, like most times, like if you go to the doctor and they give you negative, a negative report, nobody wants to hear a negative doctor's report. Everybody wants to hear a positive report. Same thing with social media. We want the positive. We want to be able to hear positive things. So, yeah, we want people giving us positive feedback. But when it does not happen, that's okay. And we can get comfortable with saying no or that's not okay. I let me share a quick personal experience. I mean, I'm telling you, it was just this week. I had somebody write something so critical. And I really don't think it was, I don't know, it was so critical. And it was actually a very mean comment. And my normal intuition in the beginning would just be like to ignore it and delete it, right? Just like, oh my gosh, same thing. Gary V, empathize. They must be really be hurting, which I still was thinking that. But my next thing as this person wrote this comment, I actually just wrote them back and I said something along the lines of, "Oh, really? Why would you say that?" Or what makes you think that whatever it is that he said? And I was actually floored that I got a response back and the response back was basically like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that toward you. I meant that toward, people in general. And so I think sometimes words get taken out of context, especially on social media. I don't know about you, but oftentimes I do a talk to text, and sometimes I'm running in between a couple of different things, and I talk to text. I send the text without even like looking back on it. And I sometimes look back and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is not what I meant by any stretch of the imagination. I can't believe it. Right. So sometimes, and giving people the benefit of the doubt, but then also responding back and being like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of not okay with that. But like, tell me more. Like, why would you say something like that? Why are you writing that comment? Like, is there more? And sometimes there are things that we can learn from those things. And especially, even like that YouTube, that comment that I got recently. And when I kind of reached back, I didn't attack that person, I didn't whatever, but it basically was more out of curiosity of like, hey, you know what? I'm curious why you said that. Like, why would you say that? So being able to like create your boundaries, create all those, but then also saying no and being okay with that too. Now, I know in terms of like, what do I personally do sometimes when I get negative comments? Number one, same thing. Like, I sometimes will respond back. Number two, if it's totally inappropriate, I'll just delete it. And you know what? I think, thank you, Gary V. They must be hurting. They must be going through something, right? Sometimes if I don't respond to it or I delete it or we do engage and there is some kind of conversation, okay, here's also another thing to remember. There are what they call, there are those trolls that are out on the internet that they are getting paid to say negative comments on different people's social media platforms. So some of these people, they're just doing this because it's a job. Like they're just showing up for their job, just like you and I are showing up for our job. So keep that in the back of your mind that it really, like, you've got a couple options, and you've got more than a couple options, but it whatever you decide to do, it's going to be okay, whether you delete it, whether you comment back, whether you engage with it, whatever that is. But honestly, last thing is kind of to realize big picture. Like, if you big picture different things in the world, that like when you're driving around, when you're looking around, this a negative comment is really not that big of a deal. Like, if you're thinking about building a business and you're putting yourself out there on social media, there's going to be lots of comments. There are going to be lots of feedback. And I'm telling you, and this I can speak from personal experience, sometimes you're going to outgrow friendships. Yes, sometimes you're going to outgrow friendships. And there can be people that you have known for years and years and years and years and years. I'm speaking from personal experience because I ended up showing up to an event a couple of years ago that there were a lot of people that I knew from childhood. There were a lot of people that I knew from, this certain chapter of my life. And I remember one person in particular started talking about, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Mariah, oh, you've totally changed. You're this influencer now, and you think you're this, and you think you're that, and da 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 da." And I honestly, I was hurt, but I also kind of was like, "Huh." Like, I thought you knew me, but it turns out you don't really know me. Like, you don't know me the way I thought you did. And sometimes, and again, that person must be hurting. But kind of going back to big picture, that one, like, very opinionated negative thought, it actually almost propelled me more to like, oh yeah, like, you haven't even seen, like, I am just getting started here. And I think about that, and this was a couple of years ago, and this person thought like, oh, you're doing this and this and this, and I'm thinking like, well, I wonder if you've seen my work now, because compared to what it was a couple of years ago and what it is right now, it's night and day different. And so I just think thinking and remembering big picture, number one, they're not paying your bills. Number two, they're not with your kids. They're not with your family. They're not like, big picture. It is a mean comment. It hurts, and you can let it fester, and you can, dwell on it, and you can do all of those things, or you can choose not to, and you can let them have their opinion, and then you can let yourself move on and keep posting and keep being your authentic self and keep doing all those things. And one of the other things I really, really want you to remember is, sometimes this one's hard to remember, and it's kind of hard to say sometimes too, is much of this stuff is just in our heads. What does that mean, Mariah? Well, what I mean is one of the number one things you need to realize is a lot of these, negative comments, like I said, they don't know you. They don't know your situation. They don't know whatever, but a lot of it comes back into your own head. So when I say that this is all in your head, basically what I'm saying is that you get to choose whether you're going to let these negative comments hold you back, stop you from posting, stop you from sharing your work, from building your business, from doing that, or you're going to shake it off. And I've said this time and time again. It's kind of like the athlete. I remember I was running in a marathon once, and like there was a runner that was in front of me, and one of the corral gates was really, really tight. It was really close. And one of the corrals was kind of sticking out a little bit. And I saw this runner, and she was going full steam ahead, and she fell over that corral. And everybody kind of just went, oh my gosh, right? I'm telling you, she was like a gazelle. She literally like jumped up from the fall and kept on running. And I had chills just watching her, and I was like, "Oh, wow. That was insane." Not everybody, sometimes you're going to fall and you need time to recover. Like you need to shake it off, you need to take time to breathe, you need to take time for that. There's other times where it's kind of like, if you've heard the saying, how quickly, when you fall, how quickly are you going to get back up? How quickly are you going to bounce back up? Are you going to let it fester in your head and your brain and all this focusing on the negative comments, or are you going to just move forward, right? You get to choose, which I think is, the best thing, and really forcing yourself into places that bring you joy, that bring you more happiness, that bring you that's when you're surrounded by people, right? So having those things, again, I know there's a difference with this, but really focusing on the positive. For every, and this is, I've heard this saying before too, for every one negative comment, there are probably 10 positive comments, right? So if you're scrolling through your feed and you're getting a thumbs up for this and a like for this and a heart for this, and somebody says, oh my gosh, that's gorgeous, but you're just going to focus on the one negative comment. I don't know. Like, big picture, it's going to be okay. Your account's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. But how long will it take you to get back up? So, in the grand scheme of things, a lot of times, especially with posts, I appreciate people's positive feedback, but I'm also not going to stop doing the work if I'm not receiving that praise, if I'm not getting the compliments, if I'm not. And the same thing goes for the critics. And honestly, I'm telling you, a lot of times with the critics, they are going to just boost your engagement. They are going to like push your work out more with, because the more comments, the more engagement on that, you almost want to say, hey, thank you. Thank you for sharing my work more, because you're really pushing this out to more people. So, again, kind of just recapping of what we discussed today in terms of how do you deal with the negative comments on social media? How do you deal with that? Number one, just remember, they're 99% of the chance they're probably not going to know you. They're probably going not to know you. And even if they do know you, like I was telling you about this person that I had met many years ago and I thought they knew me better than they really did, it turns out it's not really my person. That's not really somebody that I should be hanging out with anyway, because honestly, they don't really know me. Number two, we talked about was empathize with them. Thank you, Gary V. Empathize, empathize, empathize. For them to be leaving those, critical, mean, hurtful comments, there's a good chance they are really hurting, because if they're sitting there just posting negative comments, there's a good chance that they're probably not happy. Next one we talked about was being able to set your boundaries, and then being able to say no, being able to, I don't want to say retaliate, but really be able to stand your ground and to comment back. Hey, you just sent me this negative comment. Great. Will you tell me more on that? Will you share your thoughts with me? I'm really genuinely curious to know why you would say something like that. The next thing, number four, we talked about big picture. In the long run, are these people, are they paying your bills? Are they, paying for your kids' college? Are they, big picture? This is so small. again, for every one negative comment, there are probably 10 positive comments. So keep moving forward because 9 times out of 10, a lot of this stuff is just all in our head. A lot of these things really don't matter big picture when we're building the business, when we're creating the life we want. A lot of these things are really insignificant. So hopefully by sharing these thoughts and tips with you about things that I have realized as people post negative comments on my socials sometimes, majority of the time it's positive, and I like surrounding myself with positive people. Hopefully this has been beneficial for you. And again, if you are looking to build and scale your business this year by leveraging the power of social media, I hear from people like you all the time and I absolutely love it. So feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. And if you found any value in this podcast today and enjoyed listening to it, I would really appreciate if you give this a quick like, leave me a comment, subscribe, and wishing you a wonderful rest of your day. And I look forward to chatting with you very shortly. Take care. Have a great one. Bye.